It happened again, and it's going to keep happening until NATO does something about it. NATO is showing itself to be a paper tiger. It really is. I mean, it talks a big game, and then it doesn't secure its own border. And I'm not talking about the border just over Ukraine where a drone just hit. It wasn't like Romania. It was actually in Lithuania, which is nowhere near Ukraine. Here's what happened. Drone from Belarus enters Lithuanian airspace, spotted near Vilnius. Vilnius? Vilnius is up here. Vilnius is the capital city of Lithuania, near the border of Belarus, nowhere near Ukraine. What on earth is a drone doing going into that airspace? But again, I mean, they did nothing about it 3 weeks ago, and so they're doing it again. Local residents reported seeing this device in the sky around 5 a.m. According to Lithuanian authorities, the drone most likely came from Belarus. The UAV was last seen near Vilnius. And here's some images because the locals thought this was kind of odd. Like, why is a drone going up here? Remember, this is Lithuanian airspace. Okay, this is what I said 3 weeks ago. So a Russian drone just landed in a NATO country, and no, it wasn't Romania right on the border of Ukraine. It was another NATO country, pretty far removed from the Ukrainian border. Now, was it a test? I don't know if it was accidental or intentional, but either way, it's a test, and I think NATO's about to fail. I think they failed. Okay. Meanwhile, in Poland scrambled jets overnight to patrol its own airspace amid Russian massive attack on Ukraine that injured civilians. Okay, so if this is happening and you don't do anything about it, you get more of it. Here's just a little bit from my conclusion from that video 3 weeks ago. This is really close to the capital, which is in Vilnius. Okay, so here's Vilnius, and let's look at this. Here's Vilnius, and here is Sumkas, and that's on the way down to Minsk. I think that's the road I took going to Minsk back in 2005. So it's right on the border with Lithuania. And look where Russia is, look where Ukraine is, and how did a drone wind up there? And if they don't respond, what message does that send to Putin and Lukashenko about how they won't respond? The West's failure to defend Ukraine has Russia and its coalition of T-states confident that they can acquire territory in the civilized world with no resistance. Today, that does sound like the answer, right? Like they're seeming to do this and feeling it's okay to do it and get away with it. Gabriel Landsbergis said the unbombed farmers of Eastern Europe want protection from Ukraine, while all the time Ukraine is protecting them from Russia. This makes no sense. All right. What happened last night, overnight? 309 out of 324 Shahed drones knocked down, 2 out of 4 cruise missiles, 0 out of 3 ballistic missiles. They have a terrible time hitting ballistic missiles, and that's for a reason. Ballistic missiles are very hard to hit and shoot down without like Patriot systems or something along those lines. Now, I'm trying to understand what the Russian strategy is. They had 42, then 71, then I think 60 something, and then they had 200, and now they have 300. They didn't save it up for a massive 500 or 700. But they are, I do understand. So they like went from light to medium. It's very strange. Here's what happened in Kyiv. Putin's ruthless missile and drone attacks injure civilians in Kyiv, damages concert hall in Krapnitsky, and forces Poland to scramble fighter jets amid heightened alert. Okay, and then we saw this, the trajectory. Now, this was what's interesting. Okay, so they have like medium high, like they could put out normally about 150 a day. If they have 300, that's higher, but it's not higher like 500 or 700. Okay. But their targets, they targeted a little bit in Kyiv, and then they targeted here, and they targeted here. So the trajectory of Russian missile and drones during last night's attack, the attack was mainly focused on Starokostanivniv. How'd I do? I actually practiced this, by the way. Here it is on here. If you listen to
Starokostanivniv.
So Kantanev. Okay. So I do practice, believe it or not, and then I slaughter the words anyway. And Kropninski. This is where they're targeting, and they're like really focused now. And that's an innovative strategy for them to really focus like they have. Okay. And this is what a residential building in Kyiv looks like after the latest Russian attack. 8 people were injured, and they're in the Kyiv, like the subway system, trying to shelter from this. Okay, so that's what happened last night. Now, what else is happening with the war? So the Ukrainians were hitting back, and here we had a massive cyber attack, chaos across Russian airports today. Jets can't refuel or take off after hackers decimated company networks and servers for a large aircraft company, Aeroflot. The aftermath of the cyber attack on Russia's largest passenger airline. Their operations have been brought to a standstill following large-scale cyber attack that hit during the night of July 28th. The airline's IT infrastructure has been effectively destroyed. Most systems remain non-functional. Computers are down, both at airports and at the offices. Flight planning is impossible. Aircraft cannot be refueled. No one knows which planes are supposed to fly or where or with whom. And many are being sent home. Others remain stuck on board, waiting for updates that never come. And then they posted this picture saying Guten Morgen, or whatever other language that's good morning is Guten Morgen. Aeroflot kaput, and Ruskies, what's up with Yabolo? I don't know what that means. Okay, and so, yeah, that happened. And then the Russian Prosecutor General's office confirmed that a hacker attack was behind the failure of the IT systems. Massive lines have already formed at Moscow's Sheremetyevo and St. Petersburg, Pulkovo airports. And Aeroflot says that refunds or ticket changes will only be possible once services are restored. So, okay, massive disruption. But it's not just to harass the population. It's actually doing something. All critical systems from databases, internal mail, and executive communications were breached. That's going to be helping them understand some things. Around 7,000 servers were wiped, over 20 terabits of data. Damages are estimated in the tens of millions of dollars. The attackers called this a strategic strike. Okay, let's look at the battlefield. 1,000 Russians off the battlefield, 4 tanks, 1 armored fighting vehicle, 14 artillery systems, 103 vehicles, and fuel tanks. And now engagements were below average, casualties slightly below. Drones accounted for 68% of reported equipment losses. Now, that's a little low. It's usually somewhere between 70 and 80% of, like, drones are huge. In this war, and probably in wars to come, drones do most of the damage. Here are the losses I could identify for July 26th. This is Andrew Perpetua. We're a couple days behind, but he's showing this. And the losses are about 1-to-1. Now, somebody was reached out to Johnny Pierce. And by the way, Johnny Pierce does a really good job with this, ATP Geopolitics. Go look up his channel. And he does a really good job unpacking the differences here. And reach out to him and asked hey, can you explain to Dr. Gerdes that this doesn't actually, some losses are different than others. Like, certain losses don't really mean that much and other losses mean more, right? Okay, I get it. I've explained that before. A tank is more valuable than a truck, and certain little bits of equipment losses aren't that valuable at all. But I'm just giving a broad level overview of 1-to-1. And so on certain days, and on balance, it'll balance out. On certain days, it'll be less important losses on the Russian side. On certain days, it'll be less important losses on the Ukrainian side. So I'm just trying to give the broad overview. But if you really want to get into the weeds with this, ATP Geopolitics does a really, really good job. Okay, the cross direction, Russian invaders conducted 39 assaults. That's reasonably low. Russian forces are pressing toward Kupiansk from the northwest. Russian forces have appeared to have shifted their focus, opting to flank the city from the west. So that's innovative. That's something that I haven't been doing before. According to Ukrainian journalist Yuri Butusov, since the 3rd Brigade was reorganized into a corps, losses of units have dropped by half.
even as combat intensity has grown. He credits the change to increased trust in leadership, better tactics, organization, and reporting. So that's good news. Okay. This is Preston Stewart posting this. This is from a Russian mill blogger, Archangel Special Forces. He's saying, this Russian mill blogger saying this: the situation on the Sumy front is deteriorating. So from the Ukrainian perspective, this is a positive thing. After Ukrainian forces captured Kondratynivka, it's spelled a little differently from the Russian spelling, enemy assault groups launched an attack on the next village. Currently, special operation units have been deployed to Alekiskva, which has been already seriously complicated operations in this area. Therefore, the situation is extremely difficult at the moment. Fighting is ongoing, and the enemy is pressing not only with numbers, but also with quality, not to mention the number of UAVs being used to strike our fighters. So they're not enjoying their time in trying to breach into Sumy. Okay, Ukrainian FPV drone flew straight into the basement of a 9-story building where Russian troops were gathered, and then it went boom. And yeah. Here are another 5 Russian Garand drones downed by the Garpun unit using Ukrainian interceptor drones. And then I just wanted to show you this because I just found it interesting. This net that goes out over the drone flies above it, shoots a net out, and there it goes. 1, 2, there it goes, 3. Ukraine's long-range converted E-300 Sky Ranger carrying a FAB-250 bomb underneath, and you can see that here. It looks like almost like a little Cessna plane or something along those lines. Okay, 3rd anniversary. This is kind of awful news. 3rd anniversary of the T attack on Olavinka. On the night of July 28th to 29th, 2022, Russians killed 53 captive defenders of Azovstal. Unarmed Azov fighters who had completed the defense of Mariupol, left the war zone under safety guarantees, fell victim to one of the gravest crimes against prisoners of war in modern history. So what happened was the Russians blew up this POW prison, and then they said that it was Ukrainians that were shooting HIMARS at it. I remember this vividly because I reported on it. They said that it was Ukrainians firing HIMARS at this building, blowing it up. Now, then the Russians had the audacity to say, we demand UN inspectors come in and prove that this is the case, that the Ukrainians did this. And then they wouldn't let them in. And then later we found from images of from ballistics experts that things blew up from the inside rather than came from the outside to blow in. And yeah, it's just a whole new level of evil. And they keep trying to find even new lows and new lows and new lows. So Zelensky saying on the night of July 28th to 29th, Russia committed one of its most horrific war crimes, killing dozens of Ukrainian prisoners. Tragically, this is far from the only example of Russian atrocities. Today, Ukraine marks for the first time the day of mourning and remembrance for the defenders of Ukraine. It's a good time to mark that anniversary for that particular event. Okay, I like to show you things that are going on in tech and improvements with drones and things along these lines. I just saw this and I thought it was interesting. This is a Chinese car maker that has now a gesture-controlled doors. And that's kind of cool. That's where the future is going. Look at that. Isn't that interesting? Yeah. Feel all Iron Man and such. Now, the future is not all that rosy in some regards as well. This is just a public service warning. Do you like to share secrets with ChatGPT or any other AI? Think twice. OpenAI CEO Sam Altman has admitted everything you tell AI is not confidential. Well, we kind of know that, but think about the ramifications of that. Conversations with ChatGPT aren't protected by law like those with a doctor or lawyer or a therapist. That means in cases like divorce or custody battles or workplace disputes, your chat history could be requested by a court. So Altman is urging lawmakers to act, but at this point, just be aware of that and think about this before you talk with ChatGPT or whatever else. Okay, Jake Bros Save the Donkeys campaign. I didn't talk about it yesterday. It was at 769,000. And now a day later, it is at 827,779 on its way to $1 million campaign. If you want to participate, the link will be below. Thank you, my friends, for listening to this update. Thank you for the likes and the shares and the subscribes. I'm looking forward to reading your comments. Put those below as well. Thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.